Good afternoon. Today's lecture is devoted to the problem of professional burnout in pedagogical activity. This subject is of particular importance because teaching belongs to those professions in which intellectual effort, emotional involvement, and social responsibility are constantly combined. Under such conditions, long-term overload may affect not only the teacher's personal well-being, but also the quality of instruction, the character of interaction with students, and the stability of professional motivation. For that reason, burnout must be examined as a serious pedagogical and psychological issue rather than as a purely individual difficulty. The lecture is organized around three principal aims. First, it is necessary to study the causes and consequences of professional burnout in pedagogical work. Second, attention must be given to methods of prevention and strategies of recovery. Third, it is important to assess the influence of burnout on teaching quality and on the professional development of educators. The practical tasks follow from these aims. We must clarify the concept of burnout and its manifestations in teaching, examine the factors that lead to it, and consider examples of measures through which burnout may be prevented or overcome in real professional practice. Professional burnout is presented here as a state of psychological, emotional, and physical exhaustion. Its characteristic signs include apathy, loss of motivation, and a decline in work effectiveness. This definition is important because it shows that burnout does not concern fatigue alone. It affects the teacher's emotional energy, sense of purpose, and capacity to function professionally. In pedagogical work, such a condition is especially serious. Since teaching depends on attention, responsiveness, and sustained interpersonal engagement, exhaustion in any of these dimensions inevitably alters the educational process itself. Several causes of burnout are identified on this slide. Among them are excessive demands and workload, lack of support from colleagues or administration, low job satisfaction, and the discrepancy between professional expectations and educational reality. Another important factor is emotional involvement in work without adequate restoration. Taken together, these causes indicate that burnout develops not from one isolated circumstance, but from the accumulation of structural, emotional, and professional pressures. Its origins are therefore both personal and organizational, and any serious analysis must take both dimensions into account. The slide presents burnout as a gradual process developing through three stages. The first stage is emotional overload, when the teacher continues to work at maximum capacity but already experiences fatigue, tension, and irritability. The second is depersonalization, marked by growing distance from students, colleagues, and professional duties. The third is exhaustion, in which emotional and physical resources are so depleted that even ordinary tasks become difficult to sustain. The example offered here is especially revealing. A teacher who was once fully engaged gradually loses interest, becomes detached, and finally reaches a state of complete depletion. This progression shows that burnout must be recognized early if serious consequences are to be avoided. This slide specifies several concrete factors contributing to burnout. Work overload is one of the most obvious. Numerous classes, lesson preparation, extracurricular duties, and reporting create chronic fatigue. Lack of social support intensifies this burden, especially when teachers feel isolated in their work. Emotional involvement may also become a source of strain when the teacher is constantly drawn into students' difficulties without sufficient recovery. A further factor is dissatisfaction with working conditions, including low salary, insufficient resources, and an unfavorable physical environment. These circumstances demonstrate that burnout is closely related to the overall organization of pedagogical labor. The methods listed here point toward both prevention and recovery. One essential measure is the establishment of healthy boundaries between professional and personal life. Another is the development of stress management skills, which help the teacher regulate pressure before it becomes destructive. No less important are social support and, where necessary, professional assistance. Burnout is often intensified by isolation, and for that reason, recovery frequently depends on the presence of supportive collegial, personal, or specialist networks. Thus, prevention requires not only personal discipline, but also a culture in which seeking help is recognized as professionally responsible. Several conclusions follow from the material considered. Professional burnout is a complex process that may seriously affect both the teacher's health and the quality of education. It develops progressively, beginning with emotional overload and potentially ending in exhaustion. For this reason, timely recognition of its signs is of great importance. The lecture also shows that prevention is possible. Healthy boundaries, stress management techniques, and access to social support are not secondary recommendations. They are necessary conditions for preserving professional effectiveness and personal well-being in pedagogical work. Thank you for your attention. I hope this lecture has clarified the nature of professional burnout in pedagogical activity and the importance of preventing it through conscious professional practice.